Today's Toy Spot, we're having a look at the Takara Tomy Henkei Transformers Classics Megatron. I think still to this day, this is one of the more sought-after Henkei releases of a toy because it took all the aspects that people loved about the original classics Megatron and gave him an updated Generation 1 color scheme. Just a phenomenal guy. Still, again, one of my favorite Transformers Classics toys. Between Megatron and Optimus Prime, I think I probably play with these and transform these the most. Featured down below, he is in his gun mode, though in the packaging, unlike the original Classics version of Megatron, he comes in his robot mode. On the back, shows you the transformation, I guess the several different features. Not really so many features, I don't know what this feature is. I guess pop-up head. It doesn't really even have a pop-up head. He has light piping, his pulse cannon, and he's got like a laser scope going on there as well. I'm not really sure which one I like more. I know, yes, this one does have a more Generation 1 look to him, but I kind of still have love for the original Hasbro version. He's just so outrageous with his purple, and that he just kind of looks like a Nerf gun, that I've always just loved that toy. Spot's going to take a break, though, and get this opened up. When we come back, we're going to get a better look at Megatron. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Having a look at Megatron, yeah, okay, he was in his robot mode when we looked at him in packaging, but I thought it was fitting to have him in gun mode, and then we would do the transformation back to robot mode. I really love this gun, although, you know, despite the fact it's a little more Generation 1 look with the colors, the reds, the grays, the silvers, I still think I dig still the Classics version of Megatron a little bit more. Henkei version of Megatron is the exact same mold, and for how old this figure really is, I think the engineering on him was quite clever. I mean, he comes together really nice. I think with transforming him, though, to robot mode is really easy because when you unhinge sides here, you pretty much know how he's going to come together. Getting back into robot mode is just really more or less a case of lining him up and making sure that all the things come together properly. But the end result, though, is just a really phenomenal looking gun. And as I mentioned with the original Classics Megatron, you know, he's a good size not only for the kids that were picking this toy up, but also for adults. I mean, I don't have a big bear-like hand, but Megatron still holds well in my hand. He feels very complete. He doesn't feel like he's made of sections, and I think the reasoning for it is the sides of the gun. The gun's sides keep everything together, whereas if it was just component pieces, it may not have held as well together. But there you have Megatron in his gun mode. Really a phenomenal looking piece, but I still prefer, I think, soft spot in me, I think probably prefers the original Classics Megatron just a little bit more. I just kind of like the purple and stuff like that. But there you have him in gun mode. To transform Megatron is the exact same way as the original Classics Megatron. So first time you probably do this, he's a little hard to kind of figure out, but after that he's really easy. Take the gun sniper top section here of the gun and just unpeg it from the little socket point there, just unpeg it from that area there. Then take this whole side gun area, unhinge it, kind of can fold it down to the side for the time being, and there you have the inner workings of Megatron. And, you know, as I mentioned with the Classics Megatron, looking at it, you kind of see exactly where everything goes. You know, this will kind of move up, these will be his legs, his arms, his torso, and everything. But, again, how they put it together, moving the legs and having the legs a certain way, I mean, it's pretty clever the way that they put together Megatron here. Just take the shoulder section here, unpeg it. This will come up. The top torso section, which was the front of the gun, will come up. You'll spin this around and fold that into place. That'll be his torso. Then you just take his arms, snap those into place. Take this arm, snap that into place. Bring these up, like so. and you've got pretty much already Megatron half done. Take the front, open that up, bring up Megatron's head, close that off, then reach inside, and the hardest part I find is sometimes taking this fist out, unless you have the nails for it, which sadly Spot doesn't always have. Take your nails, get in there, grab his hands, and bring this up. That snaps into place, and just like that, you've got Megatron already pretty much assembled. And take the legs, separate them from the trigger, like so. Take this section here, fold it up, fold it around to the back, and there will be a section on the right there. Take this section here, spin it around, and there will be a clip right there. That clip sits into the back of his, well, the robot back, and then that folds down. Take Megatron's legs, straighten them out, swivel them around to the front, and then reach underneath, grab his heels, his foot, and his heel, foot and his heel, like so, and straighten that out. These you can do really whatever you want with them. Unfortunately, I seem to remember that the Henkei version this whole back section could untab, and unfortunately you can't. So these will still be in place the same way that the original Classics Megatron was. There's really not much you can do about that. Really, for these side pieces is these pins right here. I mean, really, I guess you could pop these pins out, and or really for that matter, you could unfasten this. And if you could pop that pin out here, you could take this whole back section off here and even just leave the clip off and then just snap that back on every single time that you want to transform Megatron. Because really, that's the only thing that's keeping this back section on him. I'm almost certain, though, that there was a Megatron available that this section could just unpeg right off. And I thought it was this Henkei version, but it doesn't seem to be that is the case. Unless this was the unpeg, which it doesn't look like that is the case at all. That this is also the Henkei version. There's a lot of introduction to chrome on this piece. There's chrome on Megatron's chest piece with the Decepticon logo there. A little bit of chrome on his knees. And there's a little bit of chrome on the purple, which was just a regular purple on the original Megatron. There appears to be nothing done differently with Megatron's face, other than the fact that I think they just swapped out the light piping on Megatron. There's a little bit of light piping on the back. His eyes are red, which versus the original Classics Megatron was, I think, a purple color instead. But you can see that they've taken all the same mold of Megatron and then have just simply given him this recoloring in the Classics Generation 1 coloring. And I think it works really, really well. I like it because it looks more like the Generation 1 Megatron, but still, truth be told, I kind of like the Hasbro version just a little bit more. And speaking of actually a comparison, there's the Henkei version of Megatron, and there's the Hasbro version of Megatron, and you can see that there's a very distinct difference between them. Yes, this one looks a little more like Megatron, this one kind of looks less Megatron-esque. But I kind of dig the purple. I really like the purple on this. And actually, one thing I forgot to do during the transformation, these fold up. So it kind of gives you that extra little bit of knee, kind of a knee cap or a knee covering on his knees. Just kind of gives him a little more of a robot leg. The same thing can be done for this Henkei version of Megatron. These fold up as well. But you know what? I know a lot of people probably are going to like this Megatron a little bit more just because his coloring is a little more Transformers-esque, whereas this one looks a little more like a toy. But, you know, either or, I think this is just a phenomenal mold of Megatron and such a great update to the piece. For Megatron's articulation, his head is on a ball joint, moves quite a bit easily back and forth, up and down. Shoulders are on a ratcheted joint. The same thing can be said for his forearms that have a nice ratcheted bend in the elbow. Movement out there as well. No articulation in the hands though. No articulation in the waist, and then his legs go forward, back, out. A nice ratcheted bend at the knee, and I guess to some extent he's got a ratcheted foot as well. The one thing I don't like about this Megatron is the one thing I mentioned with the Classics version of Megatron is the legs here. The legs can move quite easily, though you're always going to either be having Megatron straight or even to bring the legs out, he's always going to be like bow-legged. And there doesn't seem to be any way around it because these are ratcheted. There's only, you know, a couple of different notches. It either goes that way or it goes that way. Or, you know, to that extreme, it goes that way as well. So, you know, if there had only been like an ankle pivot or something like that to offset the fact that Megatron's legs spread as far as they do, that would have been a nice addition. But that's the one thing I really don't like is the leg, and I guess the fact that this back section here doesn't come off. Henkei Megatron or really Classics Megatron, either way, this is a phenomenal mold. And as I mentioned with the Classics Megatron, or Classics Megatron, the one thing I really like about these toys is that they're not super complicated to transform. In fact, Optimus Prime from the Classics line and Megatron are still, to this day, some of my favorite pieces because I can just pick them up and, you know, while I'm watching TV, watching a movie, I can just transform them and, you know, I don't need an instruction manual every single time I get figures like this out of packaging. So for that reason, I really love Megatron. Still, though, kind of gravitating a little more towards the Classics version, but that's just really my preference. Today's toy spot, we're having a look at the Henkei Takara Tomy Henkei Classics Megatron in a more updated Generation 1 color scheme. If you guys were able to pick up this figure when he was first released, certainly let me know. And stay tuned, Spot's going to have more toy spots heading your way. Also, be on the lookout, Spot's going to have more Transformers reviews heading your way as well. So there's definitely a lot heading your way, really, as we move forward on this channel. I'll see you guys next time.